Oh man, what a week, huh?
Ari,
Ree-hee-hee. Ree-hee-hee-hee-hee.
honestly, it's been a good life for me.
It's been a good life. It's been. Are you gonna die? Is that what
Yeah,
you?
this is the end.
It's been a good life.
I'm not gonna commit suicide on the podcast. I promise.
But you might
Uh,
after the comments, the YouTube comments, after your
The YouTube comments.
your Wandavision takes. Speaking of Wandavision takes, everyone, welcome back to another special episode of Stacked, another After Hours. We're here, like we said. This is the more informal podcast where we're not doing the formula of the show. You know, it's just three dudes, and today we decided we want to talk about WandaVision because it's currently what day is it? March 9th. It's a Tuesday. WandaVision aired on Thursday. Technically Friday, but we watched it at midnight, you know?
Yeah.
We would have done this earlier, but Chris and I have been working on a film, and Brandon's been working on journalism, so yeah. How are we doing, everybody? Chris, I know how you're doing, but how you really doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Been busy the last couple days alongside you, but I mean, this week is always the week between thesis weekends. Always just feels very like non-existent. I feel like a lot of the time it's just like waiting anxiously between. But yeah, feeling good. A little exhausted, but name of the game. So yeah, here we are.
It's so weird because I'm gonna be talking about this a bit because this is actually this is the first film that I've worked on for more than a day.
I love that on the last After Hours episode.
Yeah,
we talked
last
about
After Hours we talked about my curse, but hey everyone, I broke the curse. I've now worked on a film for 2.5 days, really.
Yeah.
Because we ran into some trouble on the third day, but that's okay because we got some pickup day to finish it. But yeah, it's really fun to see like people that I hang out with and actually working with them in like a professional manner, but while still being like goofy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I get that same feeling, Chris, during this week. It's like, oh wow, like I've been working with all these people on a film the weekend, and now we're like all just going back to our normal lives for just like 1 week, and then we're going back into it, you know.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Like we're in a it feels like we're like, I don't know about you, Ethan, but like I've like felt this before because like even like as a freshman or whatever, I'd work on thesis films.
Yeah.
And like the week between shooting weekends just feels very like inconsequential to me. I don't know if you're feeling that. If it just kind of feels like this week feels like purgatory or something.
Well, I've had some projects to keep me busy, like a news story that I had to write, and my Australian cinema paper. Brandon, you relate?
Right.
Yeah, I relate. Mine was 2 weeks ago.
You know, this will be out on Friday, but I'm a little behind. I hope Fury doesn't watch this or listen to this, but I'm a little behind on the paper, but I'll get it in on time because I always do. Brandon, what have you been doing? Who are you? What are you doing? I haven't seen you in a while.
Who am I? I don't know who I am. You saw me yesterday when I accidentally.
Wait.
Sorry, Fury.
Oh yeah, I did see you yesterday in class. I was like, wait, what? When did I see you? Oh yeah, in class. Yeah. What have you been doing besides going to Australian cinema?
I've been working a lot on journalism. You've said it yourself. I haven't really been watching a ton of movies lately because I've been focused on like working. Trying to get things all ironed out so that I can have some free time to myself, and having you guys on set this weekend was fairly good because then I could focus on that. Yeah, I was like, all right, so they're doing something else. What can I focus on, right? But outside of that, I would say like I took a hike on a mountain with our friends Chris, Krager, and Justin. And honestly, that was a great what.
I said the boys.
The Chris boys. Yeah, it was a good the alternate point. No, just kidding. I love you guys. But it was a good alternative to just staying inside. You know, my legs are kind of sore because we literally climbed. It was a glorified hill, but like akin to a mountain.
A glorified hill.
That's Southern California for you there. Like you're not really gonna find like a mountain, you know.
Yeah, and honestly, I've also been getting back into classic Doctor Who.
Oh gosh.
I know you guys are like trolling me and saying you're a bad person. You're a geek.
You're a bad person.
You're a bad
when,
person.
when did we call you a bad person for liking Doctor Who?
Hey, but here's the thing.
You should be
When
ashamed
I was
of
in high
yourself, though.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I loved the modern show, and I got so into it, you know. And I even got into some of the classics because they used to be all on Daily Motion before they had like this TV service called BritBox where you can get British television. And I watched season 7 this weekend while I was working on some journalism because it's not the most complex show that you have to pay attention to every second to because there are times where it lulls. So I feel like you can kind of like mix your attention and stuff like that. But it was really good. Like 2 episodes were really good. Highly recommend Inferno and Doctor Who and the Silurians for anybody listening, if you can find them. But yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's really fascinating because the entire time you were talking about Doctor Who, for the YouTube listeners, an image of Brandon dressed up as Doctor Who has just been fading onto screen. That image of you, Brandon, kind of reminds me of the Robert Pattinson in the kitchen in a sweatsuit, but it's you in a Doctor Who costume. It's just like it just has that sort of energy. Of you.
Can you post that next to the Robert Pattinson photo and say,
Yes.
"Does this equal this?"
Or no, I
On our
just
account.
no text. Just you two standing
just
in a
that.
kitchen next to each other. You're
Who
like doing the
wins? You
same
decide.
pose too. You're just like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't regret it. Because in 2013, when it was the 50th anniversary, my girlfriend at the time and I were really into the show. And I think I dressed up. No, I didn't. I did not dress up for him as Halloween, I don't think. Maybe it was the next Halloween after. But, you know, that's where that's from. Honestly, big fan. Shout in the comments. But
Shout
don't get
in the
mad.
comments. Get mad. Listen, I fucking hate British people. All right, that's the reason why I don't watch it.
Did you watch the royal interview? I did.
I watched the Steve Brule version. Did you see
I
that
saw
one?
that.
No, I saw the 2-hour interview while I was working.
What kind of sound does I'm gonna name sound a car part, and you say the sound that it makes? Car horn. Honk honk. Beep beep. It's just Meghan Markle just staring at him like, what? It's so well edited.
Did you know?
I just like.
Did you know she
what?
was on Deal or No Deal as one of those briefcase girls?
Well, I know
Really?
she's an actress. I know she was an
Yeah,
actress. But I didn't know she was on Deal or
34
No Deal.
episodes or something like that.
Was she?
And she,
was she with Howie
God.
Mandel?
yeah,
That's so funny.
not as like a couple,
So-
but isn't that
so
weird
jealous.
that
The
like
Duchess of
somebody who married the
Sussex
prince?
was- yeah, the Duchess of Sussex was on Deal or No Deal as the briefcase girl.
But that's not even as weird as a reality TV show host becoming our president of the United States, you know?
I think it's
Yeah.
the same weird.
It's the
I'll
same
send you a
weird.
picture. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's the same weird because she was married into the family, you know?
Mm-hmm.
This dude actually became our president. You know? It's just
Did he though?
Brandon denied it.
Brandon's now like forcing himself to forget the past 4 years. Did he though? Was he really our president? I don't remember.
Intentional blackout. Come
Wow.
on. I just sent you to. Actually, I didn't send them to Chris. Chris, you don't get to see them. No, just kidding.
How dare you? Oh.
How dare you?
In Briefcase 11 is the fall of the British Empire. Ring.
Yeah. Well, what have you been up to, Ethan? I know you've been on set.
Been on set, watched some movies.
What'd you watch?
I watched Marty. Fans of the romantic movies episode finally watched that. And all I'm going to say is I'm really happy it's on our final stack. I really loved the film. I think
Isn't it good?
I think Brandon summed it up perfectly where it's just like it's this nice it's just under 2 hours or something. I think it's like an hour 30, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this nice simple story. It like takes place over like a day, like a day and a half, you know? Which is crazy for like a love story cuz usually love stories like they track like the rise of this relationship and the fallout and the eventual coming back together, you know? It's like years of these two people. This is literally just a dude meeting a girl for the first time. It's just like, wow, you know? I said in my
Uh-huh.
review, I think this is a required viewing for all incels. Because I think you can find beauty in yourself, guys. Don't get yourself down.
It's a very wholesome movie too.
Ethan's dating advice. I love it.
Can we have a
listen to
segment
me,
on
guys.
every show?
Listen to my dating advice.
I'm glad you liked it, Ethan.
Yeah, and then after that, I watched the last King Kong movies I haven't seen, so I've seen every King Kong movie. I watched King Kong Lives, which is fucking hilarious but awful, and then Queen Kong, which is a gender-bent remake of the first... Brandon just gave the hand. Oh my god. I'm gonna throw up the SpongeBob image of what you just did. Right after I said Queen Kong, he did that. And Queen Kong sucked. It was made by a white dude who's probably racist, and yeah, there's still a lot more racism probably than in the original King Kong. And it was just trying too hard to be funny. But anyways, that's what I watched. But the thing that I watched before those movies, that's what we're here to talk about today. WandaVision. Now, all three of us, I think it's clear that we are all huge fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at behest to most of our friends and colleagues and peers. But yeah, so everyone knows we're big fans of the MCU. We pulled some films out on Stacked. We had our big Endgame discussion. I think that's still one of my favorite discussions that we've had on the show. Go back to that if you want to. It's the sequel's better than the original episode. And yeah, here we are, guys. The first entry into Phase 4 of the MCU. Now, I wanna talk about, before we talk about our thoughts on the series as a whole. Let's talk about what our expectations were going in. You know, if you could draw back to all those weeks, the 9 weeks ago, Chris, what were you thinking about, like, seeing the trailers, and like what were your expectations were going into WandaVision?
I think, like, I was talking to Joey about this a couple nights ago about what draws me back to the MCU every single time. And of course, you know, you've got the adventure, you've got the comedy, you've got like the lovable enjoyment, the epic battles and everything. Of course, like, yeah, absolutely, I love that part. But what really brings me back every time is the characters. Like,
Yeah.
the MCU, at least to me, and I'm sure many others, would not be as meaningful to me as it is if it weren't for these characters that I find really interesting or captivating or just like really entertaining one way or the other. Like, so yeah, I suppose, like, when going into WandaVision, right? Like, Wanda and Vision, they were always like ever since Age of Ultron, they were always kind of around, but they were never really like the Avengers. You know, they weren't the people that, like, they weren't Cap, they weren't Iron Man. You know, they weren't the people that you'd think of immediately necessarily. So I thought of this as like a great opportunity to like explore Wanda and Vision, who are, like, at least in the few comic books that I've read from Marvel, like, I really enjoy what they do with them. I think Wanda is, now having seen the series, one of my favorite characters in the Avengers, because I think they really do a great job with three-dimensionalizing her.
Yeah.
So, and that was my hope and expectation, and that's exactly what I got. And yeah, honestly, very pleased with it. Like, I really think they did a great job with hooking me with this character, because that's what will always bring me back to the MCU. And yeah, so that's kind of my expectation, and it was fulfilled.
Yeah. What about you, Brandon?
I think when I first heard this show was coming out, it interested me. Like, Kevin Feige was pitching it as, this is gonna be weird, you know? And I was like, hey, if the MCU can, like, try and broaden its visual style that everybody seems to hate, like, that might get more viewers on board. And when I saw the trailers, it wasn't that I wasn't interested, it was just Marvel was pitching other stuff that I was far more enveloped in. I mean, I'm talking about, like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, that's more the part of the MCU I like the political, realistic, like, nature behind, like, how how like the world responds to people like the Avengers, superpowered individuals, which is why I think the early X-Men movies are like really near and dear to my heart, even though they're not the best films out there. Because like they tackle that real world accountability for superheroes, and that's why I love Civil War so much. So I would say I was probably the least excited of the four of us who came together every week to watch it together when it started, but I feel like I got the most into it as the series went on. Like honestly, I was invested in the characters. I mean, I've loved Wanda and Vision in the comic books. Like I remember when I heard that Wanda was in Age of Ultron in 2014 or whenever that announcement came out that Joss Whedon was going to have twins in the shit. I was like, "Oh, this is perfect. And if they bring Vision into it, maybe they can do their love plot." But I thought it was too weird for the MCU and they weren't going to do that because, like, you know, having a robot fall in love with a human being is kind of hard to do on the big screen. We've seen it in stuff like Her, but that's like more independent and takes risks. Whereas with WandaVision, I felt like they finally got their chance to flesh out these characters and do it with some of the best comic books from their characters. And honestly, I really appreciated that. And it surpassed my expectations, at least.
I know. So going into like when they announced that Marvel was making shows for Disney Plus and like the characters that they were choosing, I always thought like it was the weirdest choices, you know? Like I remember there was like a Vision and Scarlet Witch show, a Loki show, a Falcon and Winter Soldier show. I'm like,
I groaned.
You groaned.
I went, oh.
I groaned. I sneered. I was just like, because the only sort of context I had for comic book television at the time was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then the Netflix shows. And
the Netflix shows are okay.
The CW, the Netflix shows, Daredevil is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
Luke Cage is great. Jessica Jones, the first season is incredible. Punisher, first season, incredible. Iron Fist, Defenders. I thought I've been the minority where I really enjoyed Defenders. But
Inhumans.
Inhumans, blech. Oh my god,
that was supposed to be a movie.
I could not get through Inhumans. That was rough. But just purely in terms of budget, I was like, how are they going to televise the Marvel Cinematic Universe? You know, it was really strange to me. But like once I saw The Mandalorian and the amount of budget and attention that they gave to that show, like my concerns were pulled back, you know, were eased. So now my hype for WandaVision was at an all-time high because I'm a huge fan of the Vision. He's probably my third favorite Marvel character, just like outside the MCU. I think
he's top 10 for me.
Top 10.
Yeah.
I just think like he's such a brilliant character in talking about sort of some ethics and philosophy. You know, that shit usually works out really well when you're doing stuff with androids. You know, I mean, Blade Runner. Need I say more?
Which they reference.
They do reference, yeah. But yeah, I've always loved the Vision. I've always loved his appearances that he's made in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I feel like I was a little disappointed at the end of Infinity War when he was killed off because I'm like, the potentiality for this character is there, but I feel like he was used more as a MacGuffin in the series rather than an actual character. So hearing that he was going to get his own show with Wanda and they're going to bring him back somehow, I was like, yes. And then once they started dropping that the references to the show are going to be like old sitcoms, you know, and stuff like that, I was like, could they be pulling Tom King's Vision, which is one of my favorite comic runs? I bet that series has been name dropped a shitload of times when talking about this show. Even though I'll get into it later, but
there's a lot that's
that's there, and a lot that's omitted. But
yeah,
going in, I was hyped. I think at the very right before we started, I was a little fatigued. I don't know, just by the marketing. I feel like it was everywhere. So I going into that first episode, I was now just more like at a base curiosity than where I was months ago, you know. But man, those first two episodes, they really set the ground of like what this show is going to be, and I'm glad that they released them back to back, because I don't know
Great.
I don't know if the audience would have retained if they just released that episode 1. You know,
I think episode 1 is the worst episode, if I'm being honest.
really.
Yeah, like for me, like I don't know if I would have been as looking forward to the rest of the show if I hadn't seen episode 2, because I was like, the comedy here, and I know they're trying to like evoke that 1950s sitcom. It didn't work for me, and like yes, there was that intrigue of what happened at the dinner scene, but like the second episode with like the way it parodied 60s sitcoms, and as well as like develop this world that they're living in and the kind of the ominous nature of it, that sold me. So I kind of agree with you in that sense of like, I'm glad that they released the first 2 episodes for that reason, because then I was hooked after the first 2.
Right. But yeah, let's just like get into like the specifics here of this show.
Spoilers, by the way.
Now we're going full spoilers. Going full spoilers. I think one of the most important things we got to talk about is sort of this discourse around theories. You know,
Yeah.
I think
Whoa.
what incredibly like helped WandaVision like stay alive through its runtime and its popularity, what were theories, but it's also sort of the thing that sort of shot itself in the foot for most of the people. So like, how did you guys feel about the expectations that either the internet or the show set up for you and how it was paid off? You know, Chris, what did you feel like? Because I feel like we every time we'd watch the show, we'd always like right before we discuss like our predictions, our theories. You know, like what's gonna happen, this episode. You know, and did any of that ever like deter your enjoyment for the show, or did it make it better? You know?
Well, like for me, like going into like those first few episodes, especially like maybe the first 3 or 4, like the mystery of everything that was going on, of what was going on, was like the key to like my interest in this show. The me slowly unraveling, like, okay, so Wanda's doing this, and like why is he, and like starting to uncover like why she's doing what she's doing and all that. Like all of that was very much where for me the crux of the show held. But then eventually, of course, like certain expectations were met and certain expectations were not. But like that, like, and you know, there were certain like theories, of course, that like obviously like I was very keen on, or like would have been really excited to see. So like for example, say take for example Quicksilver multiverse implications, Doctor Strange stuff, Spider-Man stuff, even like some people were thinking about Spider-Man being in here somewhere. I don't know, but like yeah, so there was all this like discourse about like the theories and like all this great stuff, which is like that's always been like part of Marvel's like thing. Like we love, like as fans of Marvel, we love talking about this kind of stuff because we care so much. But for me, like for example, like yeah, I would have been over the moon if we got to see like Doctor Strange come in and, you know, like do his thing and maybe see him interact with Wanda a lot and all that. Like I would have been so on board for that. But at the same time, like the absence of that didn't detract anything from me because I was very much geared in. By the time that those things were supposedly meant to pay off, I was so geared in to this story about Wanda and her analytical aspect of that. Because like I think it was episode 8 where we really get to see like why does Wanda do what she does in this show, which is my personal favorite episode. And yeah, like by then I was like, you know what, like I'll take or leave Strange. I don't mind if Quicksilver is not a huge part of this anymore because like I'm here for Wanda by that point. And like I suppose it's one of those things where it's like the expectations for some people overwhelmed their I suppose enjoyment of the show itself. Whether or not that's a fault of the show or their own expectations, I don't know if I'm in a position to make that call. But for me, at least, like I was just like, you know what, I'm here for Wanda, and I got exactly what I wanted. I fell in love with the character, and yeah, the expectations never really drove me away from the show, even though that was definitely a fun part of it. But yeah, what about you guys?
I think fans of the show and the MCU as a whole typically get carried away with the fan theories. Like, they take everyone as kind of like gospel, and they pick and choose which ones they want to believe are true.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll like go throughout the internet, and this is not just Marvel fans, by the way. This is like any sort of like mega franchise worth of fans that will go intentionally trying to figure out what's going to happen, because I think they want to figure it out before everyone else does. And there's nothing wrong with that, I suppose. But I think it dampens their enjoyment of the show because they go in expecting so much, right? And I think what Marvel is trying to do is broaden their horizons a little bit. Like, we started to see that in phase 2 and sometimes even phase 3 with like genre subversions.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I feel like people were like, oh, well, they're just going to make the same type of things that they're making in phase 3 and phase 2. But I think they're trying to evolve even further to make shows that are no longer just like alluding to future things and such. Like, I don't think they're obviously going to plan like the MC films always do. They always drop hints.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I feel like they're going to try and make their own self-contained stories that are for those specific characters. And I highly appreciate that. Yes, would I have appreciated a Doctor Strange cameo knowing that she's in the sequel? Of course. However, I don't fault the storytellers for not putting that in there, because
Mm-hmm.
fans had this expectation because she was in the sequel that she'd show up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would have gotten the same viewership if they had told people like, oh, that's not Doctor Strange, or Doctor Strange's not going to be in it. Quicksilver's, that's not him, you know? For me, like, yes, I thought that was a very interesting plotline, but at no point was I like, this is definitely Quicksilver from the Fox universe. Like, I thought that was even pretty far-fetched when he showed up. It was definitely exciting because I was like, oh my god, like, this could mean so many things.
Yeah.
But I think what was most interesting about it is that it focused on one particular set of characters and never strayed from it. You know, it never strayed too far into the, we're going to set up something super future that doesn't make sense for this story.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So yeah.
I think I love what you said about like how these like what is the goal of these Disney Plus shows, because you have to like factor like now going in. I think it's quite clear that these stories are going to be standalone. Like, the people at Marvel can't expect everyone who watches the movies to have a Disney Plus subscription to also watch these shows every week, you know? So, it's sort of like, I don't know, it's sort of like in the comics where, you'd have these big crossover events and you'd see these characters who have minimal roles, but you still have investment in them because you have 12 or 13 issues of singular stories about those characters that you can take their personality and like their emotional journeys from those stories and put them into those, you know? I think that's what these Disney Plus shows are really going to be. So I think we like going into Doctor Strange 2, I think we are going to get like a little recap of basically what's happened to Wanda and WandaVision, you know, just because we can't expect everyone to have seen the show. But
A few lines of dialogue here and there.
a few lines of dialogue, but it's just gonna like, if you've seen the show, it's gonna make the movie all the better, you know?
It's like tie-in media, like those like prelude comic books or something like they do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be just like that. And but in terms of like sort of the theories and like mysteries that this show implicitly set up, you know, like who's the electrical, like the aero engineer, you know, who is the, let's see, what's another one, who is Ralph, you know, who what was that that fly that was on the wall in that
I think like
episode.
But like that stuff that the internet put in your head.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like that stuff, it wasn't the show's fault, but I will say I am still massively disappointed by what they've done with Evan Peters in the show. I'm still dumbfounded. They did. It's literally the exact same thing as the Mandarin reveal in Iron Man 3. Like, it's to a T, the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I was just dumbfounded how they just made it a random actor named Ralph Boner. And I'm just like, okay, so it was just a joke, you know? This was just a setup for a joke. And I get where they were coming from by casting Evan Peters in that role, because you're like, oh, hey, it was Quicksilver. But, like, casting him in the role was basically them shooting themselves in the foot, because
for the fans that would be highly,
because they've already established before we saw him in the show that they're setting up a multiverse saga, that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are coming in Spider-Man 3, so we know there's going to be people from movies outside the MCU coming in, you know? So when we saw Quicksilver for the first time, like, how could we not, like, have such high expectations about what they're going to do with that character, you know? I think that moment is still my all-time favorite moment of the show, just because, like, when we watched it together and our reaction to that, like, we all like fucking exploded when we saw that show. I remember, like, we were like high-fiving each other and shit like that. We're like, it's happening! Oh shit! But, and then it's just like, I would have been totally fine if, like, I think what they should have done is they should have brought back Aaron Taylor Johnson. They should have tried their best. I don't think he would have wanted to, but I think they should have made him come back and then explain that he was just a random person by, like, a face spell. Because I think that would have made way more sense than
Evan
Peters. Because, like, how did Wanda fall for that? You know? Why does he...
I don't think... Okay, can I explain?
Yeah.
I think she was falling for it because she wanted it to be him, you know? Like, sometimes people in grief make excuses to accept their reality the way it is and not ask too many questions, you know, because it causes them more grief to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as Feige said, like, it's just another way for certain people to be messing with Wanda. And that certain people, I know it's
I just can't believe that, because they literally look nothing alike. And I don't know, I don't know anything about, like, if facial recognition gets, like, messed up when you're going through grief or something like that, but, like, come on Wanda, you can't be that, like, you can't be that out of touch, you know? I don't know. It made me feel like the show was making her believe that it was Quicksilver to make us believe that it was really Quicksilver, you know?
But then she did say in episode 7, that's not your uncle or whatever.
Yeah, she did, but like, still at first, I don't know. It was just like building, and it could have not been her uncle and could have been something else. But did it really have to be an actor? Like, why was it an actor? I thought he was already under her spell. Why did it have to be an actor named Ralph Boner? You know,
mm-hmm. I can understand.
I think I would have liked it more if it was just like a dude from the town. You know,
I don't think I was attached because I was like, I don't really like those X-Men movies that much, like the later ones. After Days of Future Past is good, but after that, it's like, it's kind of a drop off.
I think, well, I don't like the X-Men movies, but I love Evan Peters as Quicksilver. Like, he's by far the best part of all those films that he's in, you know?
That's probably true.
And I love him more than Aaron Taylor Johnson, so I was like, is Marvel actually admitting that they have the worst Quicksilver, and, like, they're because they're so fucking powerful, they can bring in the better one? I was like, what a fucking move that would be. And I would have believed it, but yeah, there wasn't really that much multiverse stuff in the show than what we were led to believe. But everyone's probably kind of confused how much I'm talking about this show and how I still gave it a 4.5 out of 5 on my Letterboxd, because I think, like you said, Chris, it's a character-driven show. Mm-hmm. You know, the anchor of the show is Wanda and Vision, and that stuff that has to do with that is just like, it was beautiful. I don't think they've ever done, as someone who loves the dynamic between Ant-Man and the Wasp more than anyone, I feel like that they are the best romantic couple in the MCU now, you know, because we basically got like 3 movies of development over this show, you know, and it was so beautiful and touching. Like, that scene, I can't believe that they pulled off the even an android can cry moment. Like, I can't believe I didn't even think about that they were gonna do that in the show. That never came to mind, even though it's such an iconic moment. But they did it, and they did it off they pull it off perfectly. You know?
Yeah, it makes sense too. Here's another thing about WandaVision, and I don't know if you guys like really have started to pick up on this. You probably have. They are going deep cut now with comic book stuff, and maybe it's just the Disney Plus shows,
Right.
because they're like accessible, and this is for the bigger fans because you don't need them necessarily.
Yeah.
But like they're starting to get into characters and like origins and or story beats that are very like, I would say, deep cut comic book stuff, like very weird, taking a chance. It's not your traditional, like the Infinity Saga is not a deep cut.
No.
Like anybody who follows Marvel knows, like they've done it like twice, and both times it's like been one of the most iconic comic book runs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're starting to get into like Tom King's The Vision, which is, you've heard of, right?
Yeah.
But like, how many people have actually read that comic book?
Yeah.
And that's I'm floored by that. I love that they're doing that and trying to go outside of their comfort zone.
Though I didn't feel much Tom King's vision in this show, though.
I did.
I was surprised.
And I'm reading it right now.
I mean, they do have the narrative of Vision sort of trying to like hide himself in the show. You see that in the first few episodes, but I want to see more of that like political stuff that's in Tom King's vision. That I hope that one day, because they do sort of give a rebirth to the Vision by the end of the show through the White Vision, which I thought was absolutely brilliant.
Genius.
It was so genius of how him unlocking memories and playing with the ship of Theseus, sort of analogy, the thought experiment, which we've all been in philosophy through sci-fi, and I remember that day we talked about that in class, and it was just like, that was so cool for me to like show me like, oh, I know that, I'm smart, to like recognize that, but yeah, now I'm just hoping that like maybe one day we'll get like an actual proper adaptation of Tom King's Vision, where Vision, now that he doesn't have his emotions maybe from Wanda, like he will create his own family. It's sort of like a reverse WandaVision, where now Vision's creating the family instead of Wanda. Because I do,
but it is reality.
I do want to see like Vivian and stuff like that. His daughter has become quite a popular character in the MCU again. I think she's really cool. So, and maybe she'll join the Young Avengers eventually. I don't know, but yeah, it was awesome. Let's talk about what's next. What's next
for Wanda, or
where do we
like
see this going?
For MCU?
For everything, man. Like, now that we know, so just to recap where we are now, the Sword director, he's under arrest. He was arrested. We don't know what Sword's like. Monica Rambeau, we didn't even talk about Monica Rambeau in the show. She's amazing. I can't believe they pulled off that origin so well by connecting it to Wanda.
Nobody predicted it.
I thought, yeah, nobody predicted it. I always thought it was so weird that they were introducing her in WandaVision. I was like, when they announced the casting, of Monica Rambeau in this show, I was like, they're gonna introduce her here instead of in Captain Marvel 2. I mean, introduce her older self, because she was a kid in the first Captain Marvel. But
right.
I didn't even know that we were going to see her origin in the show. And they pulled it off perfectly by sort of tying it into Wanda's hex, and maybe like some multiverse stuff of her ripping through sort of like this tear in reality, and that sort of gains her photon like abilities. But yeah, that's gonna be cool. So Photon's going up to space to meet with Nick Fury, because we saw him chilling in Spider-Man Far From Home. We saw him chilling with the Skrulls up in space. So she's either going to pop up at Secret Invasion first or Captain Marvel 2. We saw Vision yeet out of there. Probably going to do some self-discovery. I don't know when he's going to come back, but hopefully soon. And then we saw Wanda, now without the Vision she created and her kids, go off, and she's reading
studying.
the Darkhold, She's studying up. She's
Good for
going to
her.
doing some astral.
Stay in school, kids.
Go to school. She's doing.
Get a job.
She's doing.
She
better
should get a job.
astral projection than Doctor Strange, because
she's awake.
she was fucking awake. She was like making coffee and shit while at the same time reading like these dark texts. I was like, whoa, what the
Well, she
fuck?
is more powerful.
She is. They name drop the Sorcerer Supreme that way, saying that she's more powerful than him. So yeah, what do you think Doctor Strange 2 is going to be like? Because we do also hear at the very end, like, the crying out from Billy and Tommy. So is, like, this multiverse going to be ripped open because she's trying to find her kids? Chris, what do you think?
I would say like probably like what I would guess is like I feel like Doctor Strange would get involved in this story when the reality of Earth is threatened by Wanda.
Right.
I assume Wanda is going to be the inciting incident, and maybe there's probably going to be a lot more going forward. But like, I feel like Wanda might like do something, perhaps a little rash with the multiverse, and then Doctor Strange will step in and try and resolve that. But then obviously that might lead to conflict, or they might come together to fight a larger threat alongside one another. Yeah, that's how I imagine it. I really am kind of like interested by like this kind of like this dark kind of magic world that we saw, like the witches and like that like little like that really dark like ceremony that we saw in the show where like she's surrounded by witches,
like that Salem shit.
like Salem witch hunter shit, like Hansel and Gretel witch hunters, if you will. Anyone seen that movie? But yeah,
no.
Comment down below if you've seen Hansel and Gretel.
Shout out to Jeremy Renner. But yeah, I mean, like that's really something really interesting to me, because like I guess like I mean, we haven't seen very much magic going on in the MCU just yet, other than Doctor Strange, and the Doctor Strange stuff like to me felt very like almost like mystical, like, and like wonderful in a weird way. Like it was always kind of like awe-inspiring, but like not that creepy. So I'm excited to see it. And also Sam Raimi directing Multiverse. So I mean, who knows like what he's gonna do with witch stuff, you know? So time will tell with that.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of different ways they could go, because we have Spider-Man in between.
Right.
And I don't know if it's supposed to be like that, or if it was scheduled to be like that. So somehow, right, I think it has to happen beforehand, this ripping apart of the multiverse in that sense. Like, which I feel like maybe Wanda has to play into Spider-Man to some degree. I don't think she's in it or anything, but she has to play into the background, because why are they here? You know, they can't just do the live action Spider-Verse the same way they did the animated Spider-Verse. Like, I feel like that would be kind of a cop out.
Right.
I know Sony wants to get Tom Holland in their movies, but come on. I don't know. I feel like they're setting up for a House of M type thing, because I thought this was going to be House of M, and to an extent it had like elements of it with her kids and her developing her own reality.
Yeah.
But it didn't have that same like MCU altering sort of turn, and I feel like they're doing that in the movie. And they had to set it up with something like this.
Right.
I really do think they're bringing in like a Mephisto or a Cthulhu or Chthon.
They might do like Mephisto, Chthon, and Nightmare. I feel like they might sort of like how they've sort of they've combined a lot of characters and like warped narratives around characters in the past, you know? I feel like they might do that again to make the story easier, because I don't know if they're just gonna do like just Mephisto. Like I can't see the actual devil being in the MCU, you know? I think they'll make him some sort of thing. I think they'll like make Nightmare like be like a Mephisto character, and like have him be perceived as the devil through like stories. You know how they did that with the Asgardians, how they're like people created folklore around them when they showed up to Earth. But yeah, I don't know. And in terms of Spider-Man, I do think it was always intended for like it to go WandaVision, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. So I think what we're gonna get in Spider-Man is like we're gonna have this mystery of why the multiverse is opening up for people, because the average viewer won't know that it's Wanda doing this, you know. And then Doctor Strange is gonna come in, and I think the two of them, Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, are sort of going to figure out that this was Wanda's doing by the end of the film, you know? Probably not in like a third act or something. I don't think she'll even be in the film besides a post-credit scene. You know?
Me too.
Mm-hmm. I think it'll be like, oh, it was Wanda all along, or something like that.
They just do it.
Agatha. They'll do that some sort of post-credit sting which will then bring Doctor Strange into his own spinoff. And I think what Wanda's gonna do is realize that she's making a mistake again. You know, I don't think they're ever gonna make her full villain just because like
Me too.
Because of the criticisms Marvel has received in the past for the Scarlet Witch character and how they've handled her like that, you know? So I think it's going to be Wanda, like, trying to mess with the Darkhold for the right intentions of getting her kids, but actually unleashing something worse onto this world that she and Doctor Strange will have to fix in his sequel, you know?
I mean, honestly, I have a theory that Doctor Strange movie is probably going to be like the biggest MCU movie we get in the next 3 years, of the ones that are announced, other than maybe Ant-Man.
I know, I think you're right. Yeah, I think it's going to be like the Civil War.
There's going to be a lot of cameos in that movie, and people don't realize that because it's a multiverse movie, and they've got to play with like the what if scenarios that they're going to mess with in the TV show.
Yeah.
And like people don't realize how crazy this movie is going to be, because it's going to be horrific in some senses because it's by Sam Raimi and it was supposed to be done by Scott Derrickson. So you gotta believe that there's some horror elements in there.
Yeah.
Also, if they're bringing in like the Darkhold, you would assume. And not only that, but then they've got this like epic universe spanning story where you have like literally a universe hopper in America Chavez, who's a young Avenger, which they're also setting up. So this is like
I forgot they're bringing her into this.
Right. So it's like it's the chance to like really turn the page onto like what this universe can do, which is why I'm probably the most excited for this movie. Not out of all of us, but like just in general, you know.
No, I'm so excited for Doctor Strange too, because I think the first Doctor Strange is one of the most underrated MCU films.
It's not just Iron Man, people.
It's not. Yeah, it's not just Iron Man with magic. And I love Benedict Cumberbatch's Stephen Strange. I think he does an excellent performance. I love Wong. I love the world building that they've done for the Sanctum Sanctorum and all that stuff like that. So I'm ready to go back into that world and see him truly deal with some. I love the multiverse of madness because, you know, my favorite thing about Doctor Strange is like how insane things can get. That, you know, if you look at those original Stan Lee and Steve Ditko runs, and the insane art they would do, and
hello,
someone at my door. Did you hear that? What was I saying? Doctor Strange.
You were talking about the art.
The art, yes, the art of Steve Ditko. It's fantastic, and then we saw little glimpses of that in the Dark Dimension, but mostly we saw some Inception-like stuff, you know, happen to the world of Doctor Strange. So I'm ready to get weirder, and hearing Multiverse of Madness, that just means like we might be going full weird, and bringing Sam Raimi, like. I don't want to see Spider-Man Sam Raimi or Spider-Man 2. I want to see Evil Dead Sam Raimi. Or I want to see Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness Sam Raimi handle Doctor Strange. You know what I'm saying? It might be my most anticipated movie of next year. Sonic 2's coming out. So, no, I'm just kidding.
Yes!
Yes.
It's going to break open the universe.
But isn't it funny that a month later, DC is doing a multiverse movie with The Flash? And they're bringing like Michael Keaton Batman. Are we getting another Batman vs Superman Civil War situation in our hands? Like,
oh boy,
we'll see.
But we already know who does it better every time. I'm sorry, it's no contest.
I think Batman vs Superman's better than Civil War, but that's just me.
You're wrong.
But yeah, we're almost approaching an hour here.
I kind of want to ask you guys about your favorite episodes and moments from WandaVision.
Yes. And
what you think individually about Wanda's journey with Vision throughout this series.
Yeah, Chris.
Before we wrap up.
I mentioned it briefly earlier, but my favorite episode by far, I think, is episode 8. It's the one where we get To see like we basically travel with Wanda through her memory, and we see her trauma and sacrifice and everything, like, which are like vital tenets of Marvel's kind of like approach with their characters, and they do it beautifully. Like I remember in when we watched Age of Ultron, like way back in 2015, like hearing that like the twins like family was killed by a Stark missile. Like so that gave me the context and understanding of why they hate Stark, at least to begin with. But this made me feel why they hate Stark. You know what I mean? Because like how could you not, like, if you saw that happen, and like, you know, it's like seeing like how her creating this reality of like the 50s, 60s, 70s like sitcoms and whatever was her coping mechanism, because it's what brought her comfort as a child. And now I don't know, I just think that was so sophisticated and so smart and eloquently done by Marvel. I think they did a great job with like approaching trauma and pain with such like a delicate but also like very like understated and beautiful and poetic kind of way. I don't know, but yeah, that's definitely my favorite episode by far. And yeah, I mean, like, I guess if I had to pick like one moment from the show, obviously when Quicksilver shows up for the first time, I grabbed Jack like by the hoodie and was shaking him the entire time,
choking.
Yeah, I don't know. Just I suppose that that's my favorite. Yeah. What about you guys?
I think it's so hard. I think on a very special episode 5, that has one of the best moments with Quicksilver. And episode 8 does have some fantastic moments, and it has, I think, one of the best paid off theories, which is the theory of like why Wanda is creating this world like a sitcom. And I think everyone got the theory correct of like how sitcoms were a way, like, as a Sokovian, were like a way for her to view America as the land of opportunity and like view sitcoms with her family, and that's sort of like a thing that she associates with comfort, you know. I think also my favorite moment, I mean, everyone's clowned on this moment so hard, but it's when they're watching Malcolm in the Middle, you know, and he says the line, "What is love if not grief? No, what is grief if not love persevering?" And I'm just like, shut up, guys! It's a good line.
That came out of
I
a
know
fucking robot.
I think MCU fans MCU fans that aren't film studies students did take that line and run with it a bit too hard, you know?
Yeah.
Which I can see why people started clowning on it for that. But in the context of sort of just screenwriting in the MCU, it's a beautiful line. And it was revealed that it was actually Paul Bettany who like sort of came up with that phrasing. They wanted to get that sentiment, but he was the one who really came up with that. And I'm just like, brilliant. But I think one of my favorite standalone episodes was episode 2. When it was during the 60s.
It's a good episode.
I think that one was just it captured what WandaVision wanted, like, not really its gimmick. I don't want to get into the gimmick discussion we've had outside the podcast.
It's a stunt, actually. No, just kidding.
I think that was the funniest episode. With Vision swallowing the gum and then mixing with his gears and stuff like that. It had the best intro with the little animated like Jetsons, like, no, not Jetsons, Bewitched sort of intro. I loved that. And it had like some of the creepiest stuff too. I think that was the one with, I think that's when the beekeeper showed up in that one at the end, I think, right? And that's where she went, no, and he disappeared. And everyone's like, what the fuck just happened? What was that? You know? Yeah. And that's just like, I think that was my favorite episode total, but like all the stuff explaining the reveals and stuff like that. Oh, I gotta share another moment that I absolutely loved, and that was Monica coming back from the snap. I never thought we were gonna see a moment like that in the MCU.
God.
Do you remember my joke?
Of her waking up. What was your joke?
I have 2 parts joke to that. First, I swear I saw Kevin Hart in the background.
He scrubbed through it afterwards. He was like, "Well, was Kevin Hart?"
But then the second part was like, why would he be in the background? That maybe they just didn't have enough extras on the day, but like they had like people running by like between like in the like in one shot they'll have a like this one guy running by, and then the next shot he's like way off from where he was originally in the same clothes and like running by again. And I'm just like, there's this one guy, he's like the funniest thing. It's like he appears like 5 times the scene running in 8 different directions.
Whoa, what a fucked up hospital. They're just looking
They
all
picked
Same
the
guy.
biggest hospital.
I gotta rewatch that and pay attention to that. That sounds hilarious. Chris, that sounds like something that we would do for that movie that we want to make, where just everything is so fucking stupid. Of like, you know, the camera shot, like when the car's going over the camera and seeing the dude getting hit by the car and stuff like that, you know? Just having a scene of everyone rushing around, but it's the same, like 5 people just running through different doors and hallways and stuff like that, like it's fucking Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great moment, but just like very touching and some just awesome world building. You know, I never thought we did see that a little bit in Spider-Man Far From Home, but they played that off for comedy, and I loved seeing
Pissed me off.
It pissed you off.
Yeah, I hated that
Well,
so
that's
much.
I don't know. That's like what a teenager would do when they see tragedies. You know, that's teenagers are clowning on the pandemic. You know, that's how they see the pandemic. But just seeing it in more grounded and dramatic sense was just it was really satisfying for me as an MCU fan. You know, but yeah, Brandon, what was your favorite episode moment?
My favorite moment comes from the finale. As the Hex is sort of closing in on Wanda and Vision and her kids,
Mm-hmm.
I love that she said goodbye to her kids and
Oh.
said, "Thank you for choosing me."
Mm-hmm.
And which we'll figure that out, like if they're like ethereal beings inhabiting her children or not, but I don't want to theorize on that. But like that moment, I was like, MCU didn't have the balls. Like I thought her kids were going to exist outside the Hex.
They eventually will.
They will,
But I
because
thought
they're
they
setting up
were
Young Avengers.
at the end by the end of the show, but I guess they're not.
They're not, and I was so proud of Marvel for having the balls to kill off kids in the Disney
Yeah.
Plus show. Now they didn't show it, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, damn, that's a move, because it's like most shows would just give the hero or the supposed hero, when she's actually kind of the villain of the show, this perfect ending that she gets to overcome her grief, but she overcame her grief in a different way. Now, I don't know if it's going to be retconned, probably, by Doctor Strange with what's going to happen and with the White Vision, but I think it's a great moment. But my favorite moment comes from the next scene where she's saying goodbye to her memory Vision, and I have the quote because I wrote it at the end of my review. I said, "I have been a voice with no body, a body but not human, and now a memory made real. Who knows what I might be next? We have said goodbyes before, so it stands to reason. We'll say hello again."
Oh,
That
that
That's
is so
ma-
good.
nearly
like-
made me cry.
And that
That is better for me than the grief
That's-
and love line.
honestly,
from
yeah,
episode
you're
eight.
right. That's
I
way
was
better.
I was listening to that line a little while ago, and I was thinking to myself, like, do I like that line? Like, how do I put it? Okay, this is weird, but the monologue from the original Blade Runner, Tears and Rain,
Mhm.
I think
Oh,
I honestly like Vision's approach
it's up
more.
there.
Yeah, like a little more.
You know what?
It's just
It's
so
like- and it's-
Vision.
Yeah.
It is-
the philosophical implications of that and like metaphysics and shit. I don't know, and like I'm all about that kind of stuff. So like that kind of like eloquent like dissection of humanity is so like it's just so for me, and like I love it.
I think it hit me harder because I'm in that sci-fi class that you guys told me to take.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about AI right now and testing AI for human traits. And I felt like right as the show was wrapping up, I was getting into that.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh my gosh, like it's like explicitly translated here. But it's not like so like egregious that I think it's kind of cheesy. Like I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's totally Vision if you
Oh,
read the
yeah.
comics.
Vision,
like, totally.
Vision,
Absolutely.
Vision's like a romanticist in a weird way. Like the guy loves himself some real wholesome philosophy.
I love it.
I think
And you're right. That quote alone, I think, like, just made Vision like. I don't want to use objectivity, like objectively, because all film is subjective, all TV is subjective. But like, It'd be pretty hard to argue that he's not one of the best MCU characters after that quote, you know? It summed up his entire arc in just like a few sentences. And it's crazy.
30 years almost.
Yeah.
No, not 30.
30
20.
years?
Well, 3 decades, but it's not 30 years. But you know what I mean.
Right.
He's been in it for a while. 15 years?
15. Yeah.
No,
I'm assuming Jarvis was created like a few years before Iron Man started, so yeah, a little less than 20, I'd say.
30
years. Remember when the MCU started in 1995? Oh man. Where were you? I wasn't even alive. But yeah, any closing thoughts to wrap up this review of WandaVision? Brandon?
I gotta shout out episode 6 and 9. Those are my favorite episodes.
Yeah,
Not because
no, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
No, because
you did that to yourself.
we gotta clip this moment. Ethan, I just became dogs for a second.
I honestly like I can understand everybody's disappointment with the finale and like, but I love the finale. I think I think the pacing's off in it. I think that's the biggest issue with the series. I get into my review, but like maybe that's the week to week thing. But episode 9, that moment at the end rolls for me, like those last 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I really don't find the action really the most compelling thing in the MCU, and I haven't for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
So like the character moments matter. And episode 6, because I loved Malcolm in the Middle so much growing up. It was like one of the first TV shows I really loved.
Right.
And seeing them parody that like so directly, it was so near and dear to my heart. I love that episode. That was my favorite sitcom episode.
I think the worst episode is the Modern Family Office one.
Yeah, no, that's my second worst, but I love the Monica reveal so much in that episode.
That was in the
another.
Yeah, that was in that episode. So that was good. But I don't know. I don't think they handled like capturing that show as well as the rest of the other genre, like decades, you know.
The stuff with Vision and Darcy felt like very I don't want to say filler, but it did, because it felt like they were trying to keep Vision away from town long enough for episode 8 to take place.
I think they could have done I liked how they cut him away and he's like, what am I doing here? I feel like they could.
That was good.
They should have done more. They should have played that into that more, you know. And I did like the moment where Agatha is behind the scenes. I remember we lost our shit when we saw that first time, because we were like, who is she talking to? Mm-hmm. You know, because they manipulated Agatha's voice to sound like a dude. Mm-hmm. So we're like, is that Mephisto? You know, like what the fuck's going on? And that show also spawned the Agatha All Along song, which is a bop.
I just think it's the most that I think the predictability behind that twist almost ruined it for me. Because I was like,
I imagine it was amazing if you didn't read the comics, but like, I think we all knew from the very beginning. We were like, okay, Agnes is Agatha Harkness, you know, and that's just how it be, you know. But yeah, all right, cool. Well, everyone, that was our WandaVision review. Our little discussion about the show, how we felt, and how we see things going forward in the MCU.
Can't wait for Cap, or not Falcon. Cap. Well, Winter Soldier.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's next week on my birthday. Very cool. Very cool.
It's gonna be a big day for us.
Big day. It's Snyder Cut Day and Falcon and the Winter Soldier Day. So we'll watch Snyder Cut and then go right into Falcon. Woo! That sounds tasty. Woo! But yeah, everyone, make sure to share your thoughts on WandaVision if you watched it all. Leave in the comments below. Actually, before we end, let's share everyone's scores. So, Brandon, yours was 4.5 out of 5, right?
Yep.
Chris, you were 4 out of 5?
Yep.
And I was 4.5 out of 5. So,
where does it fall in your rankings?
Oh, that is a good question.
Oh, I don't even think I put it in my MC rankings. Okay, come back to me. I'll be last. So I can.
Okay, come back to you. Mine as much as I love the show, it feels so low because I'm a stinky MCU fan. Like a lot of these movies like made me fall in love with film. So like half of them are like 4.5 out of 5s for me, you know, and like the top 5 are like the top 6, I think. No, more than 6 are 5 out of 5s. Just cuz like, I don't know. They make me happy. They make me love life.
It makes me love.
Makes me love life.
Are you Vision?
I am Vision. It's probably what it's my 12th favorite
That's what he said.
MCU thing. You can't just say movie, you know? It's MCU media, you know, because it's no longer. Man, I hope they don't do. I hope they don't do season 2s for any of these shows, so they can stay on
Agreed.
Letterboxd.
I agree.
They should
not just because they can stay on Letterboxd.
They should make like
because
a
it's like
sequel miniseries, you know, where it's a sequel, but it's its own show. You see what I'm saying?
don't want to. I don't want them to.
No,
I want them to stick.
I don't know.
With like one-offs.
If they have,
you know?
if they have like a something else they want to do with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you know, maybe call it. Well, they can't call it Captain America and the Winter Soldier, you know, but
they already did that.
I know that's why they can't do it. I don't know, but if they have something like that, change the title. You know, you can't be a season 2 if the title is different. You know,
that's true.
So maybe that's how they're gonna get.
It's in my top 5.
Wow,
but I don't have as much high rated stuff as you do.
Yeah.
I think I've only rated one movie 5 stars, and that's Endgame.
Wow.
I will defend that movie and say it's better than any other MCU movie.
And boy, did you yesterday. Yeah.
I'm proud of that, by the way, because everybody's like giving me these reasons, and I'm like, you guys are not looking at like actual. No offense to anybody who commented. I'm just saying.
No, yeah. What are they not? What are they missing?
I don't think they're looking at the I mean, they have different reasons for enjoying these movies than I do. They are looking at action and pacing, and they're thinking, "Oh, the first hour of Endgame sucks or is not that good because it's character building, because it's them grieving after the last movie." And people were like, "No, I want them to roll into the next movie and have it be the exact same thing as Infinity War, but the reverse." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I find it way more compelling that they had to sit in it, you know, but not just Endgame, guys.
I agree. No, I agree.
We're talking about WandaVision.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is better than the original Avengers for me. It gave me a lot of great vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's as good as Guardians 1, Civil War, Black Panther, but it is really high up there for me. I think it is a feat, and I hope they start to do more projects like these going forward.
Honestly, I think I gotta do a rewatch, but I have no time to do it. You know, I'm already struggling to do a Fast and the Furious marathon once a week. You know, I already missed last week's Fast Fridays, and I might miss next week's. We'll see how our production schedule is like, but I'm definitely gonna miss the week after that because I have a family in town. But
we could do the MCU marathon like I suggested.
Yeah, but I don't think I have time for that, Brandon, because I think my family's flying out on Saturday. So unless we can watch them all that Friday, Friday the 19th.
And WandaVision.
Let's go. Is that even possible?
I
think there's more than 24 hours. Yeah.
Remember what I did freshman year when Chris was on set?
It was like 4 a.m. I looked at my phone and I went on Letterboxd. I was like, Troy, Brandon's on Civil War, and then he's like, he's still going.
He's still going. But yeah, I want to do a proper marathon. I've always broken up each one, watching one once a week. But I want to see how many I can do, and I think that's a post-grad thing. That's a post-grad activity.
Let me join you, please.
All right, well, if you fucking stay in LA, then maybe, motherfucker. And if you get vaccinated... Oh, by the way, I'm getting vaccinated on Thursday. Boop, boop, boop. Stack news. I can come spit on you.
Okay.
End the episode right there.
No.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, but Chris didn't even.
Oh yeah, wait, Chris. Before the episode ends, Chris, where is it
It
in
is
your ranking?
number 11 for me.
All right,
Okay.
11.
Yeah.
Solid.
Wait.
There you go. All right. Ooh, there it is. Go check out our letterbox for all of our lists, everyone. And all right, now we're actually gonna end the episode. Fuck you guys. See ya.
Bye.
You spit on your viewers to end the episode.